As always, Craig Mish. Craig, what's going on, brother? How are you? How'd the weekend treat you?
Well, it was pretty good. Just kind of getting ready for this bowl season here. I
Bowl,
got to,
bowl season.
watching the games on Sunday was. I mean, it was Saturday was fun. I mean, we got a big win there with Navy, but then Sunday kind of went upside down a little bit for us, unfortunately. And when Las Vegas loses, we lose too, because we're really not public bettors. We don't take a lot of favorites. And unfortunately, quite a few favorites did end up winning this past weekend. So that's kind of the way that it played out. Some weird endings to some games as well, some bad beats. But you don't make excuses. You just get back out there and do your thing. We were very fortunate. We got a win, easy win on Monday Night Football to end on a good note to the week. And so we're still doing well in both contests, obviously. But 2 more weeks left of the Super Contest. And I feel like the Golden Nugget's going to go on forever. I'm not sure when it's going to end, but I'm assuming it's this week too, and it's the next week. I just like I like where our percentage is. Like I feel like we're one of those baseball players from the '80s who's hitting 300 going into the last day of the season, and I'm not
asking the coach to sit us down.
I'm not sure if we should keep going, if we want to play this week, or if we could sit out. I mean, that's kind of the way it feels a little bit. But listen, we've enjoyed doing the live streams all season long for sure. But coming up this Thursday night will be the pinnacle for us, because the two biggest things we do usually for the live streams here, and of course we do our football ones every single week, but we dive in very heavy to the bowl games and very heavy to March Madness. So those are the two things to the NCAA tournament. So those are the two things that we really spend a good amount of time doing, sometimes an hour. And I'm about halfway through. So I feel good about some of the picks, but certainly a lot of things keep changing. A lot is fluid. There's suspensions. There was an announcement. Georgia's best player decided to go to the NFL, which is not a surprise. A top 5 pick. He's not going to be playing in the Sugar Bowl. So these are things that I'm constantly watching. There's this growing list. I think right now it's only at about 6 or 7. But I know that by the time the weekend comes, it's going to just get crazy. Especially a lot of the good teams don't play until after Christmas. So that's something that we'll have to keep an eye on, and that factors in with all of these bowl games if you can try and get ahead of it. But that's kind of where I'm at right now in the preparation for it. But feel pretty good right now about 8 to 10 of the picks. Feel really good about a couple. Really good about a couple.
All right. Well, you guys, we're giving you how about this? A free opportunity to play along. Craig and I are going to be doing, just so you guys know, for the live stream schedule for this week, Thursday, 8 p.m., Craig and I are going to do our full bowl game preview, where we're going to, it'll probably be an hour-long episode, but we're going to cover all 40 games that are scheduled right now. We're going to go through each one. We're going to talk about where our leans are, if we have a pick on them, and suggestions of whether or not it's a game you should bet now, or whether it's a game that you should wait a little bit. December 20th, Friday, that's when the first bowl game starts. There are 2 games there, and then there are steady stream of games throughout the rest of the week and the weekend. So Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, you can join us here. We're going to do our full bowl game preview. We'll also make sure that that's fully available to everybody to watch it at any point. Friday night, we're going to do our regular 9 p.m. Eastern live stream, where we're going to make our picks for the Golden Nugget and for the Westgate Super Contest. So that's the schedule for that right there. Our brother site, our sister site, I think it's our brother's site, fantasyalarm.com. If you go to fantasyalarm.com/bowl, boom, you got a free bowl game sheet to work on. Pick the games with the spreads, free to enter, cash prizes at the end. It's not, humongous money, but it's free money if you can pick all the games.
Why not?
What's better than free money?
Why not? Give it a shot.
Absolutely. So, again, you can go to that contest. That's available now. If you go to fantasyalarm.com, it's right there in the banner. You can click on that and find the sheet, or you can just go to fantasyalarm.com/bowl and compete with the rest of us. Everybody from, Craig's going to do one. I'm going to do one. We're going to fill them all out. Everybody from Fantasy Alarm and wageralarm.com, whom you've been reading throughout all this time, are all going to take part in that. It's a big time. Listen, I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the the Army-Navy game. I'm sitting there intensely watching the Army-Navy game, and my wife walks into the room, and she was like, "What the hell are you watching?" I was like, "It's the Army-Navy game." She's like, "The Army." So I had to explain to her the rationale for tracking the academies the entire time and why I ended up going with Navy this time, in this game in particular. And yeah, we ended up winning. Wasn't really a game that was in doubt at all. I mean, it was
first half was a little
first half was a little low scoring,
but the breakdown from us was I mean rare. But we only had one game on Saturday, but rare for us to give kind of two sides on the game, which was Navy and the under. Which, look, I mean, we're pretty transparent with what we say on these live streams, but both picks actually came in, and we really had no choice. When you have one game, what are you supposed to do?
No,
it's kind of like the Super Bowl. You got to give the first half and the second half and the third quarter and the fourth and the props and the hats and whatever and all that stuff. So, that one worked out very well for us. And, the academies are definitely Air Force and Navy. Definitely interesting heading into the bowl season. So Navy with a later bowl game, Air Force with an earlier bowl game. They play Washington State, I believe, and so we'll dive into all of that. So we got off to a good start there. Excuse me. I thought let's just keep riding the trend of the NFL all season, which is keep going with the dogs. And some dogs did win. I mean, Atlanta, we did win.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about them. That was an outright win. They were getting a lot of points, but
the Bills were a nice win for us. Also, that was a nice.
The Bills
dog.
Listen, it wasn't a bad week. It's just we weren't on the right dogs this week. But fortunately for us, we were not on the side of Washington and Philadelphia, which was a really bad beat at the end of that game. The two losses that I was the most disappointed with, clearly. The Dolphins, who really didn't show up against the Giants, played well again in the first half. I mean, my gosh, how much money the next year we got to keep that in mind, betting the Dolphins in the first half, even if they stink, because, man, they're covering everything in the first half. Played well. And then, again, with the Chargers, I don't know. I give up. I got to just give up on that. I mean, what is...
They're worse than Minnesota for us right now. They really are. Because...
I think only two times with them, but with the Chargers, they get the ball, they give it back. They get the ball, they give it back. It's like a holiday for them. It's incredible.
4 fumbles, 3 interceptions. That's incredible. Ridiculous.
So it was one of those where I just kind of felt, Williams had an early touchdown and they went up. I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of playing out the way that I thought it was. That's the other thing to me too. And it is more of probably a fantasy thing, but. I don't know if Anthony Lynn's going to keep his job with the Chargers. They may or may not, and they're up against it playing in that home field every week. They really don't have one. Rivers has had a bad year, but I got to tell you, like at the beginning of the year, in both reality and fantasy, I looked at Mike Williams from last year. I thought it was a mirage. All those touchdowns. I'm like, this guy's not that good. He just catches red zone. And on my other shows, I'm like, I'm not into it. 5 weeks into the season. I'm like, totally right. Mike Williams, not good. I'm totally wrong. That guy is a stud. Why they have not gotten the ball to him? I mean, what have they been doing all season long? This guy catches every single thing that's thrown to him. 2 defenders, 3 defenders, jumping up in the air. They just figured this out? Like, I shouldn't be able to watch a game and tell you that. I shouldn't be able to sit here and tell you that. That guy's he's a monster. I got to focus on that guy next year if they get a quarterback of some kind. But not just in the red zone, Howard, but every time they throw this ball down the field, they're all running. He turns around, he catches the ball. And I'm wondering, wow, I was totally wrong on that guy. That guy is actually really good. And so
they spend so much time focusing on the short passes and the dump offs to Austin Eckler the entire time. I mean, the whole beginning of the season was, when's Melvin Gordon going to come back? And let's give all this work to Austin Eckler that they really didn't. Now, I don't know, maybe... we talk about Phillip Rivers and some of the bad decisions that he's making. He was leading the league in passing yards for a while. But, the question is, how much of that was air yards versus how much of it was catch and run? Because when you look at a guy like Austin Eckler, who catches a pass for 6 yards and he takes another 84 to the house, then that's the thing, because there is no excuse unless there's something going on with Rivers' shoulder that maybe we weren't privy to, that maybe they just held back on those short passes. But now here we are towards the tail end, and now they're chucking the ball
And it
Williams
works every
Way.
time. And it works
It's
every
like
time. It's
like Bo
unbelievable.
Jackson.
And you know what? I don't think that Mike Williams is Julio Jones, but man, there's a lot of traits that I see with those two guys, and I wonder. Look, the Chargers clearly are going to have to either draft a quarterback or bring somebody else in to compete with Rivers at the very least. And I will be very curious next year on that. But like I said at the beginning of the season, there are two teams that have lost a lot of close games this season that I'll probably, when we do our over-unders for next year, I'll probably go over on. One will be Arizona. They've lost a lot of close games this year, especially the game against Pittsburgh. They could have easily won that game. Some of those mistakes will be corrected. Now you can see they have a little bit of that running game back. Next year, I'll be looking to target them. And Detroit has just been such a mess. So many injuries, and yet they're kind of in the game. They were in the game again against Tampa, even going down big. I mean, Blau threw the pick six, and that was the end. But just think about that. With 5 minutes to go in the game, as well as Tampa Bay played, and as well as Winston played, I mean, Detroit was not a bad pick in that game. He threw a pick six. The game ended. So those are the two teams, Detroit and Arizona, looking way ahead 8 months from now or 6 months from now, that I'll be focused in on their win totals, because Arizona's will probably be only 5, maybe 5.5 next year, depending on what they do. And Detroit's going to be super low. Detroit's going to be like 4, so maybe 4.5. So I'll go over on those. But so those were disappointing. Miami and the Chargers. Clearly, Seattle was the right side, but they got backdoored, and we've backdoored other teams too this year. So we took it in the what on that one. I think was it a 6 and a 6.5 on those?
It was a 6 and a 6.5. So we got the push in the Golden Nugget. We took the loss in the Super Contest.
Okay, all right. So what are you going to do? The right side was Seattle in that one. Carolina came back and scored a couple touchdowns late. But beyond that, any other games you want to talk about from last?
The only other game that we lost was the Bengals. We took them plus 9.5, and they just Andy Dalton throwing 4 picks in that game. I mean, again, it's not including the pick 6 to Stephon Gilmore. There was no. I mean, let's face it. When your quarterback's throwing multiple interceptions and your team's fumbling the ball left and right, it really doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. Like, everybody's talking about how Joe Mixon ran all over the Patriots. Yes, you know what? Joe Mixon did run all over the Patriots. But if Andy Dalton's throwing 4 interceptions in a game, one of which is a pick 6, there's no way you're even going to get a backdoor cover out of these guys.
Yeah. So, I mean, the score was close at the half. It's just a lesson to be learned for people who, if you have the choice, and you can do this in Vegas, you could also do it online. Some of these bad teams are going to compete for a half. Cincinnati is one. The Dolphins are another. You can bet them for basically half the spread. So, for example, if Cincinnati is plus 9.5 for the game, you could probably get them at 4.5, maybe even 5, depending on what the line would be. You take the Bengals plus 5 at the half, you go home, and you're done. But people don't like betting halves because they want to watch the whole game, and I get that. But that's just a whole nother conversation as part of the live betting is concerned.
Right. All right. Well, so there you go. So 2 and 3 actually in the Super Contest, 3 and 1 in the Golden Nugget.
All right.
Still above 50% in both contests. We're doing all right there. We've got 2 weeks to really kind of straighten it out. In the sense of just getting back to closer to where we were last year, sitting more at the 54 to 56%.
Sure.
So we'll be able to hit some of that.
Yeah, Golden Nugget, we actually have a better percentage, I think, than we do the Super Contest. Yeah, I mean, college is. I mean, some people can't pick college at all, but I feel like college will always have a little bit of an edge because, I'm a sicko and I watch all those games on Saturday too.
Well, let me ask you. So for the Golden Nugget this week, obviously lines come out on Wednesday. Are we going to get a piece of these Friday games? Or are we going to get a piece of these Saturday games?
Well, you know what? It's interesting. I was texting you earlier, and I don't know if that report is still there. I think somebody deleted that tweet that I sent you. But the 2 games for Friday is Buffalo and Charlotte in the Bahamas Bowl, and we'll talk more about that on Thursday. But I don't think that I would have an opinion there. Kent State is really playing for a lot here. They don't get to bowl games very often. Utah State has been a massive disappointment this year in college football. They made them a 6.5, 7-point favorite. But then there was a report from Reddit today that I sent you. And again, I don't know if it's valid or not because I think it may have gotten deleted, but that Utah State could have their quarterback and 2 other players, they didn't mention suspensions. They just mentioned that they had some sort of misdemeanor arrest for marijuana use, which you and I don't give a what about. But, They do care about that in college. So the line, as I told you earlier, we had
the
our
only
chance.
time. Let me just tell you, the only time you have ever used an emoji in an email to me was this time, because I said to you, "Ooh, give me Kent State +7," because that's where the line was at. And you were like, "It ain't gonna be like that," with your stupid winky face, stick your tongue out, googly eyed emoji.
And guess what?
It's
That ain't the
5
line.
now.
That ain't the line anymore. So there's got to be something to this.
Yeah.
Okay. There's got to be. They're not going to move a line 2 points or a point and a half. It feels like a hedge for Vegas at this point. It feels like there's something could happen. They're not really sure. So just to cover themselves, they're making the line 5. The other thing that could happen in this game, Howard, is they could, in college, they're wacky like this. They could announce that those players are suspended for the first quarter or the first half of a bowl game. Very possible there too. Okay. If any of that comes down, and you and anybody watching this has any interest in Kent State, you probably, if you really want Kent State in this game, you probably have to bet it now. I don't think you're going to get a better line than this. If they announce that those guys are all still playing in the game, the most is going to go up to a 5.5 or 6. Because this is a huge bowl distraction. Like, this is what you're looking for when you're building your handicap in these. So those games are on Friday, and yeah, I think
guess who used the offshore for a +7 as soon as it happened. As soon as you sent me the email. As soon as you sent me the email and you were like with the emoji, I was like boop 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 boop. Immediately hit the offshore and got him at +7, and hopefully it stays.
Yeah. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bowls on Saturday. The bowls that I would highlight, at least that I've looked at, we'll talk more about this on Thursday. The New Mexico Bowl, Central Michigan and San Diego State. San Diego State's defense is fantastic. I would lean right now toward taking them, and we're going to have to take some teams in college. So that would be one possibly. I don't know what the motive. I mean, I know what the motivation is, but the marquee bowl game for Saturday is Washington and Boise State. They're playing in the Las Vegas Bowl. They're two really good teams. This is the last game that Chris Peterson will coach at Washington. But as we'll discuss on Thursday night, Washington's tight end, who's going to be probably a second-round pick in the NFL draft, decided not to play. Their left tackle in this game decided not to play. Boise State, of course, hasn't had their starting quarterback, and they've lost their coordinator. So there's a lot of moving parts in this one, but in general, Boise's a much better bowl team than Washington. I have a feeling we'll probably take Boise State in this game, but we'll decide on that. And then, of course, Howard, we have 3 games in the NFL on Saturday, too. Like, why would anybody leave their house on Saturday? Honestly, like, this is what a great day it's going to be. 3 NFL games and 7 bowl games. It's amazing. So, and you know, and I know in some of your leagues you're in the fantasy championship, and so am I, and I'm a Winston owner. So, of course, Saturdays will be a big day for me with the Buccaneers playing the Texans.
What a way to start off the Saturday with that being the first game.
Oh,
I mean, not only did the over
games.
under the total jump to 53 already. You're talking about 2 of the worst secondaries, and you're talking about 2 explosive quarterbacks who love to sling the rock when they can. Like, that's a fireworks game right there.
Yeah, and Buffalo, New England at 4:30 Eastern, and then the Rams and 49ers at night at 8:15 Eastern. I know a lot of people will be watching those games, and I'll flip back and forth between college and pro, but I don't think in at least the last decade we've had 7 bowl games. I'll even say this: 7 college football games and 3 NFL games on the same day. I don't ever remember that. I mean, this is going back. I mean, I suppose it's because of the holidays and the way that things have fallen. But in general, even in the past in the NFL, Howard, it was always that 1 game on Saturday or 2 games at the most that they would put on in the NFL on Saturday. On Saturday,
1 morning, 1 afternoon,
and all of these bowl games would be on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday because of the Christmas holiday and all that. So, man, we got a lot to choose from this weekend. We should have no shortage of picks for sure. And then, by the way, the following week on the on the 28th, we have the semifinal games for the college football playoff, and we have a lot of other bowl games as well too. So for the next 3 weeks, we got enough to choose from here. I was worried that we wouldn't have enough for the Golden Nugget, but we certainly do.
Yeah, well, easily. I mean, this is, I think all of these games should be The two Friday, the 7th, the 5 on Saturday are definitely going to be in play for the Golden Nugget, along with all 12 or all 13. Well, now here's the question: do they use that Monday? Does the Nugget use that Monday day game, that 2:30 in the afternoon, the
that's a good question.
Bowl?
Probably so.
Do we get a little UCF versus Marshall?
And we'd take Marshall in that for sure. Yeah, we take the points there. I did, over the course of the last 5 days, a lot of research on a lot of this, and just in general, the underdogs are again covering a lot in college football. And one tip that seems to, people are talking about this a lot, is that if you think that the public is going to be on a favorite in one of these bowl games, and you can wait and get in on a line as the line moves up in a college football game, in a bowl game. I don't know what example I would use. Okay, how about this one as an example? I don't know that we'll use this, but let's just throw out the semifinal game, Oklahoma and LSU. If you're planning on taking Oklahoma, and the best thing would be to do is wait, because the line opened up at 12, LSU minus 12, 13, 14 is probably going to go to 15 or 16. Those inflated numbers are actually the wrong side in terms of covering. Some people think it's the opposite. Oh, that's the right side because the line is going in the wrong way against me. It's funny. A lot of those dogs, as they go up, are actually covering. So, and that's the highest percentage of covers in the bowl games are the numbers that you're getting a +6 like today on a Tuesday, and then on Friday you look over and you say, I like that +6, but I waited until Friday, I got +7. Those are the ones that are actually covering more than anything in the bowl season over the last 10 years. So, there's some trends to, kind of pick up on as well. But, when it comes to this stuff, I dive in pretty heavy to this because this is the last gasp at college football.
I hear you. All right, let me ask you a couple of things about some of the NFL games that we've got going on. Because again, like I said, what's the first thing I look at? I look at who the home dogs are on the slate, and we actually have 5 home dogs this week. Last week, I think there were like 2 or 3 who may have piqued our interest. But Tennessee, Cleveland, the Jets, the Eagles, and the Bears, all home dogs this week. And I'm kind of curious, some of the things that we see going on, whether or not, there's a narrative we want to look at, or whether or not there's just, like tennis. Let's start with New Orleans, Tennessee. Just for example, Tennessee's getting 3 points. They're at home. They're fighting for the AFC South. It's the Saints, though. And we already saw what the Saints are doing right now. Drew Brees wants to pad that record. They want to get Michael Thomas in line to break Marvin Harrison's record from 2002 as well. Is this a game where you look at and you're like, I really can't go Tennessee? I can't take this home dog here.
Haven't been really good with Tennessee this year, in my opinion. Yeah, so if I don't feel like I have a good beat on a team. Now, I did like Houston last week, so that I got right. But I don't really feel like I have a good pulse of the Titans. I don't know that anybody really feels like they have a good pulse of the Titans, but I know that the Saints are not nearly as good on the road as they are at home. And I don't know that I want to look at Monday night's game as really anything. Unfortunately for the Colts, I give them a lot of credit for the way that they hung in there after losing Andrew Luck, but that has caught up to them at this point, even with T.Y. Hilton playing last night. And to be honest with you, I didn't watch the whole second half, so you could tell me if Hilton looked right or wrong. I'm not really. He didn't seem like he was much of a factor.
No, so. he wasn't much of a factor at all. Okay, listen, I can dig that. Cleveland, they're a 10.5, depending on where you're looking, underdog. Now, the last time these two teams faced, you shocked the hell out of me. You were like, we're taking Cleveland. This is one that I definitely have to take. I have to take Cleveland. It was a great spot. It was a great spot. Cleveland won it outright. So how do we look at a game like this right now, knowing that the Ravens are going to clinch for the not just the they've already clinched the division, but now they're looking to clinch the number 1 seed overall, and a win right now against Cleveland will do that for them.
Yeah, when the Ravens are 10-point favorites or more, they're 15-0.
Sold.
But that being, I saw that stat today. But that being said, Cleveland is the one team that had their number earlier in the year. So you wonder if that is the case. We're going to lose a lot of money betting against Baltimore. I'm not interested in doing that. So this would be a pass for me. I think the most interesting game on the board, I don't know if we'll have a piece of it yet. We'll have to discuss it, but definitely Cowboys-Eagles. I mean, that to me is the most intriguing game because I think it's do or die for those teams there. So, I mean, and by the way, there's no extra narrative here. Like, you could look at every team and go, oh, I wonder if this guy's going to play. If they look up at a scoreboard, like some of these later games, like Seattle, Seattle may have some things settled for them by the time they play at 4:00 Eastern, and the Chiefs as well. So, the Cowboys and Eagles are going to be punching each other in the face, but do you have a clue as to which? I mean, if the Cowboys team like last week shows up, it's like done for me. Like, I think the Cowboys win, but all of a sudden, and it's the best story I think going in the NFL. I would love for the story to continue. You remember this last year, Howard. The reason why we took Army in the bowl game was because they didn't have their quarterback there. Remember, 2 years ago, the quarterback for Houston was Greg Ward, and Greg Ward was a great quarterback in college, and now he's playing receiver for the Eagles, and everyone loves him. And you know why? Because a lot of people thought he could play quarterback in the NFL too. Like, I'm surprised. Like, if Lamar Jackson hasn't shown you something there, like I would not rule out him as a kind of wildcat quarterback. He was really good and really well liked. So I am thrilled, just like all the Philly fans, to see him become their number one receiver. I never would have guessed at this stage in the game he is, but like, he's a fantasy waiver wire guy this week. But anyway,
well,
Dallas at Philly.
He is, but I mean, let's face facts. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, Nelson Aguilar, they're all out. I mean, it's him and it's J.J. Arthur-Whiteside, and those are the only two wide receivers. Do you know Greg Ward was the only receiver to catch a pass from Carson Wentz in that game last week?
No, I didn't know that.
Everything else went to
I like Greg Ward. I like Greg Ward, though.
Dude, I won money on Greg Ward. I won money on Greg Ward.
Well, there you go. So, but what do you think? Dallas is favored in this game.
Dallas is favored in this game. Here's the funny thing is that I actually, my lean is to the Eagles right now, because the Eagles' strength on offense goes directly with the weaknesses for the Cowboys. Okay. Like, no Van Der Esch, Sean Lee questionable again. The ground game is weak. Miles Sanders got a great look last week, and I think that he's capable of doing that again as well. Dallas is weak in the middle of the field. They're weak. Their linebackers that they have right now are slow. They can't cover the tight end. That's all you see on Philly right now. They're going to run tight ends. They're going to run tight ends out of the tight end spot. They're going to run two tight end sets and use like Ertz in the slot with Perkins and Goddard on the line. I mean, that's what they're going to end up doing. They're going to get creative like that, and that's what's going to end up punching Dallas in the mouth. Now, the question is how much can Dallas, how many points can Dallas put up? Because Eagles' run defense is still solid, so they're going to have to do a good job against Zeke. The big hole here is Ronald Darby, the cornerback, who's going to end up getting burned regularly by Gallup and Cooper the entire time.
Yeah, I didn't think the Eagles were impressive at all against Washington. So, but Dallas has not been impressive in 90% of the games they've played this year. So that's a tough one for sure. Interesting line here also I want to add. How does Denver a 7-point favorite over anybody in the NFL?
I mean, Detroit is bad.
Like, are they? I understand that.
Detroit is bad.
But still, Denver -7? Based off what? What have you seen? About one game the whole year? They've had one really good game the whole year, right? I mean, we're in week 16. Can you name two really good games they've had?
No.
I can think of one against Houston. That's it.
No, I definitely can't. Yeah, and that was like 2 weeks ago.
and then they went back to exactly what they were against Kansas City. They're 7-point favorites in this game. Wow. Yeah. The Raiders were disappointing last week. I will say that, but did not take the Raiders. I know a lot. That was,
and we specifically said we didn't take the Raiders. Yeah. And everybody was on that because of the narrative. Yeah. Final game in Oakland.
Yeah, this has happened. Gruden sometimes in these regular season games. Remember his last game coaching also with Tampa Bay. All he needed was a win for the playoffs. He lost to Oakland. Oakland going into Tampa Bay. That happened many, many years ago before he took over Monday Night Football. But the Chargers are 6-point favorites over the Raiders. I would need to know the personnel for the Raiders in this game before making a decision on that. And I can't back the Chargers anymore. I just can't do it. So.
Oh, I can't. No, I won't back the Chargers at all.
Can't
No,
do that.
no doubt about it. And a home favorite of 6.5 right now against Oakland. Give me Josh Jacobs running against these knuckleheads.
If he's
Oh,
healthy, yeah. So I think we got to wait. We got to wait on that one to see what the practice reports end up. But and then the other one, speaking of which, okay, so the Jaguars, by the way, I don't know if you watched that game. The Jaguars looked so bad in the first
horrible.
half. Minshew had one completion at the half. So this week, the popular pick, and it may be right, the popular pick will be to go back to them and take those 7 points against Atlanta. So, wow, what a wacky line this is, too. Atlanta, after going to San Francisco, they've decided, okay, the Falcons, this is the biggest favorite the Falcons have been in any game all season long. They're 5-9. I don't get it.
It's a trap.
I don't get it.
It's
But
a trap.
at this time of year, we usually have done well this time of year. So when we come back, we'll have more.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've got an entire week of injury reports and practice reports to look at. We can start figuring out who's sitting who, if anybody, who's playing for what. I mean, things will take shape. It's still only Tuesday. We got a lot of ground to cover here for the entire week. So
Yeah, and I would leave you with that too. With college football, if you can get ahead of it on some of these lines, you probably should take advantage of it when when things come out very quickly. If you have an online account in some way, but I think with the NFL, we could probably take advantage of it by waiting as long as we possibly can to submit our picks, because especially next week, so many things are going to change, and the coaches don't really tell you for sure what they're going to do or don't do. So. Week 17 is a little bit dicey, but I think we went 5-0 week 17 last year, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe we did.
Yeah, I think we closed that well. So anyway, we'll be back Thursday night. I look forward to talking to you then.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for us here. Big thanks to Matt Sells, our producer. Oh, big shout out to Monkey Knife Fight. Prop games, you love them? You want them? Jump in on it, fantasyalarm.com/monkey. We'll do a $10 match deposit on your first deposit over there. If you like prop games, mid-game work, by all means, fantasyalarm.com/monkey. Again, we'll be back on Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, do our bowl game preview. Friday at 9 Eastern, we're going to make our final picks for the Ultimate Football Challenge for the Golden Nugget and the Westgate Super Contest. From my man Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. Thanks for watching the Wager Alarm live stream. We'll catch you next time.